Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of SimplyPodLogical. You know it's nothing new. You know us all too well.
A Simply and
You know
Illogical
we've got
podcast.
a bad reputation.
Bad reputation.
Never go out of style.
No,
We saw Taylor Swift.
we have a lot of bad blood.
We've got a lot of good blood after the show.
Yes.
Replenish my blood.
Welcome back, everyone, and welcome back to us, because we are now home. But we went on a little trip to New Jersey to do a couple things. We first went to the lab where holo taco is made, and then we went to the Taylor Swift concert in New Jersey, which was her first night playing in New Jersey.
Yeah, so
'Cause
she's
doing
been
like a
touring
few,
for a
right?
while now, but yeah, she's playing 3 nights in the MetLife Stadium in Jersey.
Yeah, and we went with a few members of the holo taco team who are Swifties.
Big old Swifties.
And Ben also is a member of the holo taco team who is a Swiftie.
They're bigger Swifties than me.
Really? I feel like you're a really big Swiftie. Like, you know everything. Because if I have a question about a song or an album, I'm like, what is this? Is this part of this? You know the answer.
No, okay, I like her music. This is actually a good place to start
Okay.
because my overall impression of the experience of going to a Taylor, we'd never gone to a Taylor Swift concert before.
I haven't been to a concert since the Backstreet Boys when I was 14. Like, something like that. I mean, to a big concert
Sure.
like that. I've been to, like, other smaller
Well, I've
music
never been
venues.
to a concert that big. Like, I've been to big music festivals in Toronto, Montreal.
I'm not counting music festivals in that. I meant, like a giant
big concert.
Yeah.
Biggest concert I've probably ever been to before this was maybe Radiohead. Was a big show back in the day. But this was a open air. This is a stadium without a roof.
It's
It's
like a football
It's where
field?
the Jets play. It's where a football team plays.
Okay.
And there was probably around 70,000 people there. Because the building fits like 80, but they don't sit
70,000.
people completely behind this. There were people seated like kind of behind the stage
Yeah.
with obstructed views. That's like how much they packed this place.
I
And
know.
way more people wanted tickets than could get them. So we
Right.
feel very fortunate that we were able to get in at all.
We sat on the floor, which is, like, insane, right?
We were on the floor like 10 rows back from the stage.
Yeah, like,
So we
insane.
realized we were very lucky. We got very good seats. A lot of people would love to
murder
be in
us
that
for
position.
it. Please don't murder me.
Only thing I didn't love about that section, if we're glass half full for a second.
Well, you're doing empty, it sounds like.
A glass half empty. My glass wasn't completely full. Our section was directly in front of the celebrity VIP tent, which I think a lot of people would think like that's cool. You get to stare at celebrities. But it kind of meant that during the openers, like I'm a big Phoebe Bridgers fan, so she's singing a few songs right before Taylor Swift comes on. There's just rows of mostly teenage girls in front of us just staring
Back at us.
at
Well, not at us.
But they're not looking at us.
Through us.
They're looking through us and over us. And I'm like, they should be looking at me. No, it was super awkward to like try to watch the openers, I thought.
Yeah.
And it just feels like there's a wall of people in front of you looking in your direction. It was just,
And the seats are all very close together. Like, you
Yeah,
could,
and
you
that's
would
fine.
accidentally bump into someone if you were trying to get out of the aisle.
I just found it kind of distracting. And also just thinking in my head, like, there's a tent of celebrities in the back. It's super strange that people are just staring at them like zoo animals.
I mean, I know this is normal, and I wouldn't, like, judge, if I had a friend who was like, who's that? Like, I get it. I know it's the very default normal human reaction. But I guess given our experience, I have, like, an added level of discomfort, like, secondhand discomfort about it for the people in
You're
that
feeling the
booth.
anxiety for
Yeah.
the people there.
Now, let me make it clear, I am not as famous as Camilla and Shawn Mendes or, like, whoever was in the tent. Like, I saw the pictures later that's who was in
yeah.
the tent, but, like, I wasn't
Oh, yeah?
actually. Yeah. So, like,
Together?
yes, Ben. I don't know.
Well, you're saying that like it's factual. I don't think they
I saw
were there.
pictures. So,
Of them making out?
no, just that they were there.
Was Bo Burnham there?
No, that was, like, a long time ago.
You know
right?
what one of the girls in front of me screamed at one point? Did you hear this? She goes, Olivia Benson.
Yeah, because Mariska, I don't know how to pronounce her
Yeah,
last
but
name,
this is-
from Law and Order
It's Law and
SVU
Order.
was there. Like, she was
Okay,
there,
that's not
I
even the
guess, yeah.
actress's name.
I know,
It's
they
a
screamed her
character she plays
character's
on
name,
TV.
right. But, like, this just...
And this girl's
what do
like,
you expect?
is this girl young enough? So, would this girl have seen Law and Order?
I think they just know about it because Taylor Swift named one of her cats after that. Correct?
Oh.
Yeah. I
You
knew
know
that
something
fact. I
I
knew that
don't know.
cat fact.
You know the cat
But it's
facts.
like,
I know
yeah,
everything
it's
else.
just, and I mean, hey, people screamed at me at VidCon, you know, and like were looking for me. So I get it. I'm not saying
I was mostly just thrown off by like, I get it yelling for Shawn Mendes or like Justin Bieber.
but not Olivia
The
Benson.
fact that you're screaming for the fictional Law and Order SVU character was the strangest thing, I thought.
Yeah, they did in like unison. There was like group of people. I also feel really secondhand like awkward that so many people were trying to film the booth, but I feel like they accidentally got us, like because we were standing there, and they're like somewhere on the internet, someone has clips of me and Ben just being like, "Oh my god!" Like, well, we don't know where to look. Like we're trying to look at the stage, but then they're like filming our direction. So that's somewhere.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice to not be like, it was nice. I actually had the opposite reaction. I'm like, oh, I'm not really worried about people recognizing you because they're looking for Shawn Mendes.
Right. So like it was kind of like a good foil. Yeah. It was like
At
no
the
one cares.
end of the show, some people came up to you and said hi and took pictures, but it
Yeah.
felt like in the moment we didn't really have to think about that.
Yeah, and there was a bit of an age difference because I feel like people who are aware of me have aged with me a little bit, even if they were younger when they started watching me. But the girls in front of us, like, there's no way because they would have been like 6.
They were too young for that. But there were there's a ton of people who grew up with Taylor Swift at this show as well, right? Like there were a ton of people in there. It had real like dance recital energy. And I just want to be like, I'm saying this without judgment. Like this isn't a pejorative thing. Like I guess what I was trying to say at the very beginning is like, I'm a fan of her music. I like her. I'm interested. I thought it was a good show, impressive, yada, yada, yada. But like, there were people there where it was obviously like, this was like a religious experience where like they're singing at the top of their lungs, going all out, having a great time. And like good for them. That's not me. Nothing makes me that
There's
happy.
There's going to be Swifties in the audience. This is the POV of Ben, a 34-year-old man who is
35.
just 35. How old are you? I don't remember. And like you were wearing merch, but you weren't decked out in glitter sequin jackets like most of the crowd. So yeah, from your POV, it's a different experience because when you go to concerts, you just go there to like listen to the music, right?
Yeah. And I had a great time. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you like which parts of the show I liked and my highlights, and you could do that too. It was. My overall impression was almost like, those like mega pastor churches? Have you ever seen clips where like there's a bunch of people in a room, like they're speaking in tongues, they're throwing money at a pastor so he can buy another private jet? You know, those sort of vibes?
Like,
mega churches in the States.
okay. Were they like singing like
So
choir,
I felt like we're in a mega church
okay.
where everyone's like having like a life-changing experience. And
Yeah.
I'm there like, I just kind of like crackers. And that Jesus guy sounds okay.
But you like Taylor Swift.
I like
music.
Taylor Swift,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like I'm a fan.
Yeah. But you're not a fan of that type of experience isn't typically what you would seek out.
I'm a fan. Most of the people there are fanatical.
Got
And that's
it.
fine. I'm
Okay.
not saying this as a negative thing. I'm so happy for those people. Like people were clearly having the time of their life there, including people we were with.
Yeah.
So like it was great.
Yeah.
It was just I was like, not having the same experience as most
I
of the
think
people there.
I personally have a problem where when I
Yes,
go into
several.
Yeah, let me explain. Let me over explain. Wait. I have a problem where if I go into a large social arena where it's like a lot of social gathering or social actions or a change in decorum or whatever it is, I fixate on analyzing that. So it's like anytime we go to like a sports event.
exhausting.
Yeah, but anytime we go to a hockey game or a sports event, I'm just like staring, like looking at how people behave, the actions, what the ref does, what kind of emotional reaction a decision evokes. And it's the same observation I found myself doing with this concert. I mean, it's also like insane. Like you look up from the floor and there's like seats like fucking forever to the top of the sky. Like it is wonderful to look at and be like, oh my God, this is so many people. But I was also kind of just doing, observational analysis of my environment.
Yeah, it's like when we went to the hockey game and all you were talking about after is like the fans were emotional. It's
Like, people were crying.
People care about sports.
Or fighting when like someone didn't win and screaming.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen at Taylor Swift concert. Not
So
that I saw.
what-
No one was like angry screaming at each other. It was way more happy as opposed to like sports where there's always screaming and getting mad. because someone loses.
It was good vibes. Good vibes all
Yeah,
around.
no, it was good vibes. But I just was mostly like in awe of all the people and the interactions. Yeah.
All right. Do we want to get into like the show itself?
Yeah. The music, the show.
The music. Let's talk about the music.
I have too many observations about like the set, the costumes, that kind of stuff.
Fine.
But maybe
That's
we
all
start
fair
with the
game.
music because that's like the point.
Yeah. Well, I guess I will say that a lot of people, the night we went was the 26th, the Friday show, the first of her 3 shows in New York. And I think a lot of people, when you mentioned that we had gone to that one, were like, wow, you got a really good show.
Yes.
So I guess we should explain that. Like, for this tour.
Why was it a good show?
Exactly. So, like, the set list for this tour, she's been touring for a couple months now and is touring for a couple more, I think.
Just in the States.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
There's probably going to be an international tour.
So we'll go again. In Canada. In Ottawa? She coming to Ottawa?
I don't think she's coming to Ottawa. But so the set list has stayed pretty consistent, but every night there's like 2 surprise songs where like she's trying to change it all the time. So
I like that.
You're uniquely that night probably getting a song other
That's
people
fun.
aren't going to hear. That is fun, and she has a huge catalog to pick from. So we got 2 really good surprise songs that people really wanted.
How do you define good though? Like why are those good?
Oh,
and the songs were what? Maroon and
Getaway Car. Yeah, so I mean it's subjective, right? But there's definitely fan favorites that people are really crossing their fingers they get
like
on their show.
Bigger singles or something like
No,
that?
often they're deep. Well, Maroon's a pretty big song that just a lot of people like off the newest album. Getaway Car is like, not a deep cut, but just people have picked their favorites like through her catalog and hope those are the ones they get. I don't know. There's no...
Okay. But those are known to be more fan favorites, those 2.
Sure. But I mean, I think a lot of people would just be happy with anything. Just
Anyone will feel special because they feel like, oh, it was only for me on this night. So it doesn't really matter what song it is.
We
it's by
got
design
good ones,
to
though.
feel...
Like, I looked
okay.
at the ones the next night, the Saturday night.
Oh, really?
We got better.
What were they?
I can't even remember. But I remember thinking, we
can't
got
remember?
we got the better songs.
Yeah, all the comments on Snapchat to me, replies when I was posting stories were just like, oh my God, you won tonight. You got the best concert.
Yeah.
Because there was also...
We also got the music video premiere, the
with
Ice Spice. The
and then
Karma
she came
remix.
out
And then
like
at the
live,
end of the night...
which I don't think anyone knew.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I think a lot of people
Or maybe.
suspected it could happen.
There's
I
probably
think
like
Ice
a
Spice
Taylor
is
Swift
from there.
Detectives where they're
She
like,
did that on
predicting
the
it.
Saturday night too, by the way.
Oh,
I think
got
Ice
it.
Spice is probably going to play all 3 of these New York shows or Jersey shows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like we got some special things.
Karma is my boyfriend.
I like that song.
Tyler the cat. Sounds like that.
Repeatedly through, was it that song? I don't think it was that
I don't know.
song.
I can't remember.
A couple times Christine leans over to us and the rest of the group and goes like, it sounds like she's saying Zyler. And we're all like, what the fuck are you talking about?
There was like some lyrics I can't remember now where I'm like, I swear to God, it sounds like she's saying Zyler cat, Della cat.
Was
like,
it Delicate?
I can't, maybe.
Is it too soon to Zyler the cat? Because I know that it's Zyler the cat. I don't think so.
No, there's a reason
Think you're
why my
crazy.
brain was doing that. Never mind.
We had been talking
But-
about Zyler.
Yeah.
At the-
It's kind of like a meme that no one understands, but it's fine.
You're just thinking about Zyler. That's sweet.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
my
Zyler
boy.
too. I wish we could have brought him.
Little boy. He would not enjoy it.
Too many people? He likes people. Menchie would have not liked it.
Too loud.
Oh,
And
yeah.
people.
He likes people.
Not that many people.
Not
Not
70,000
70,000
people.
people. No cat like 70,000 people.
For me, without question, best part of the concert was the Evermore section.
And that was earlier on.
That was early in the show.
That was where she was wearing like a brownish burgundy dress with kind of gold
Kind of came
sparkles.
out with like Halloween vibes,
Mm-hmm.
glowing orange balls. But I just thought like I'm looking at this mostly from a musical perspective. The songs she chose from that album, which is one of my favorite albums of hers, I thought was really good and translated really well to that setting. It was also like, I guess I'll just be obvious with my bias that like when she's singing like 22 and we're never getting back together, like that's not really what I'm interested in. The more like sort of bubblegum, high energy pop. I really liked the Evermore section a lot. I didn't love the folklore section as much just because I felt like this was a 3.5 hour concert,
Which is long, right?
which I think is maybe a little bit too long for a show like this.
But maybe people feel like they get their money's worth.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
totally
the point,
respect that,
yeah.
and like that's clearly I have to think that's part of her motivation. Well, first of all, she's just she hasn't toured in a long time. She's released a lot of music. So she is just trying to, and it is just giving people like an overview of her entire career. So it's hard to do a short show. And I respect her wanting to give people a long, good show. But it did sort of like in the folklore section, which is an album I like, we both kind of sat down for a while. Whereas for the rest of the time, everyone's just standing the whole time, right? And it did feel like by that point in the show, you're ready for it to sort of build to a climax. And it kind of lulled a bit to me, I thought, in the folklore section.
Like one or two too many songs in
I
that
think
section.
so. That's a pretty long section. But Evermore, I thought was great. Yeah, that was my favorite part.
I liked the section where she was wearing black and red and the
snakes.
imagery was snakes. Like there was a snake on her bodysuit and there was snake imagery in the background. And they had like hissing sound effects that kind of came in between sounds and transitions.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so funny.
So yeah, this is the reputation section, right?
Big reputation. Yeah.
So what did they play? It was Ready for It, Delicate, Zyler the Cat.
Yeah.
Don't Blame Me, and Look What You Made Me Do.
What made you look.
Delicate was really good. That was a fun section. That's a little more badass, right?
Yeah, I think that's why I prefer that type of music. Like if I'm going to be at a pop concert, I guess I'd prefer music that's like a little bit badass pop, if that definition makes sense. Like I like that it was a little more evil with the imagery and just the attitude to it. A little slightly more hip hop, but not actually. But there was like more verses in it that were a little more like, had more beats to it.
It's a little edgier, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, this is cool. And I really liked the costume and the colors and how everything kind of lit up in red. It looked so good.
Do you care about like, I guess we don't go to concerts like this much, but like the whole like theatrical component of it and the choreography and the dancing and the, like, I know this is totally unrealistic, but like I would much prefer Taylor Swift sitting down at a guitar in front of a piano. I don't.
Well, she did that too.
She did. But like for me, like I've such an obvious preference for that over like the big theatrical. Look at all my dancers. Look at this. Look at that.
I think it depends. I'm sure she probably has played smaller venues where she can do that more relaxed. But
I don't think she can. She's too many fans.
Maybe
she
not.
Can't,
I
she
don't know
can't
what
do
I'm saying.
that at this point.
No. Okay.
Right? Because no, but I
Yeah.
think you're kind of getting my point. Like, I would love to see Taylor Swift in a coffee shop with like 100 people in it.
That's never gonna happen.
But 70,000 people were fighting over tickets to this show, right? So
Right.
it's just like impossible to imagine.
And
that.
when you're doing a performance to 70,000 people and it's a lot of upbeat songs, you want to make sure you get the crowd who's really far away energized and they can see what you're doing. And even though you're doing huge movements in one tiny spot in the stage, there's cameras filming you and blowing you up 22 times on the big screen.
Sure,
and
yeah.
still that's far away for some people who are far away. So from someone or being someone who did dance recitals when I was young, I remember it being burned into your brain to do the like huge smiles and facial expressions.
Yeah.
And almost like, we didn't lip sync, that wasn't part of it, but it's almost like if there was like a pop or something in the song, you would like do that with your mouth or your eyes, like open your eyes bigger and smile.
Yeah.
And with hand movements being very big and deliberate spreading of the fingers when you're doing like hip hop dance. This wasn't necessarily the same for like ballet or jazz or whatever. But like a lot of dance was that expressive so people can see you from the stage. And this was, I did not do dance recitals where there was like cameras filming us and projecting us. So it was like much smaller scale, but I just remember that. So when I was watching the dancers and her, a lot of it was like so familiar to me, the way they were doing facial expressions, like really big, and all their movements had to be exaggerated, probably much like theater is, right?
And I think it's kind of different for us because we were lucky enough to be sitting so close to the stage that like
You can really see it.
like we were close enough that it's like, oh, that is Taylor Swift just standing there, right?
Just
and all her
chilling.
dancers, right? It's not like she was like a speck on a stage. But I hear you, right? Like there were a few parts where like the dancers are pretty close to our side and like they're just making crazy faces. And it's like up close, that looks really weird, but it's for the people like 100 feet back that way, you know?
Yeah, and it's just for the theater of it all. It's like to make people in the audience feel like something big is happening. So I think it's just part of the theater. But yeah, it is for someone who's never really observed that. Like you've never been to dance recitals probably or like
No.
participated in it. It's got to be a little weird. But I was just like, yeah, that's just what they do.
I used to get my hair cut at a barber that was below a dance studio.
And you just heard
the stomping.
You heard kickball changes all day long.
Yeah, well, I don't know what I was hearing. Sounded like a stampede. So yeah, that the whole theatrical component of it was a little weird because it feels. This isn't a criticism of her or the show, but it's kind of like, how do you have an authentic human interaction when you're in like a fishbowl of 70,000 people? You know, because as much as like, first of all, I think a lot of people having that experience and being in her position, that's got to sort of break your brain. Like, I don't even know how you receive that information, like from a sensory perspective of just being on a stage surrounded by that many people screaming at you. Mm-hmm. That's got to be a complete mind fuck, I would think, anyway. So, like, I wonder, like, does that just start feeling normal? Like, clearly she wanted to express it. Like, there would be breaks in between songs where she'd say things that are, like, nice and, like, you guys, I, like, appreciate all the love and support. Which did sort of feel... They felt a little contrived, like, oh, these are just lines she says in between songs to make people feel appreciated.
Do you know if it's
I haven't really been watching the concerts, but it did feel a little, like, kind of strangely artificial, like, is she just saying this on every stop she goes? Which is fine, right? Because, yeah, like, it would start to feel normal.
I feel like it's expected. Like, my understanding of concerts is, like, at every concert, the singer's going to be like, yeah, New Jersey, I love it here. Or, like, whatever, insert, you know, something about that crowd.
Yeah.
Like, it's, like, normal behavior.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, Jersey, like, you guys are making me, like, you're clapping for me? And it's like... You're not surprised. You know people are here for you. That's what was a little weird. Like, there was a bit of this, like, oh, I can't believe you love me. And it's like, you're the biggest pop star in the world.
Yeah. It's something I think about, too. Like, you know, in my much smaller scale of fame. But, I also worry and, like, wonder, like, I don't want to have a false sense of, like, modesty where I'm, like, saying, like, oh, my God, you guys love me? I didn't realize. Or, like, something that, like, you know, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I imagine it's something she thinks about and considers.
Yeah, like, how do you sincerely communicate
that?
appreciation? Mm-hmm. And, yeah, but it's just a hard thing, right? Especially if it's normalized.
I noticed with Phoebe Bridgers, I mean, she's a totally different artist with a different style of singing. She doesn't do big pop, right? Like, it's more mellow.
It's more depressing.
Yeah, it's more depressing.
Yeah.
So maybe her general demeanor is different than someone like Taylor Swift. But, like, when she was singing even on the duet with Taylor or earlier.
Yeah. Another highlight of the show.
Or earlier on her own.
Yeah.
Her demeanor was different than Taylor, which I just found interesting because both of them are pretty big stars playing to 70,000 people who are screaming at them.
Orders of magnitude to
okay,
this,
but,
though,
like, they're
right?
still in the same position with the same thing in front of them.
Yeah.
And I thought their demeanors were different in terms of, like, how they interact with the crowd and the mannerisms.
Well, I think Taylor Swift's just, like, really good at the more... Everything felt like a performance with her, in a way. Mm-hmm. Down to, like, the hand gestures of people. Some things felt kind of strategic. It's almost like she'll, like, make eye contact with a section to make them feel as if, like, she's seeing them.
Or the camera.
Yeah, or the camera. It all feels pretty orchestrated.
But it probably is. But that's what they practice.
But I think it comes from a good place of, like, I want, like, there's so many people here. I'm trying to make sure everyone feels like there's some sort of connection going on. I just think she's kind of in this impossible position of, like, how do you really feel that connection? Because I just think as an artist, that would be really tough.
I don't know.
Is that just a weird tangent?
I think her goal is just to make as many people as possible feel like
gonna say as much money as possible.
No.
I want more planes.
Her goal is to make as many people as possible feel appreciated and like they enjoyed the show. So it is strategic to do this kind of like, I'm going to isolate this section, do a special thing with my hand.
Okay, but that's a totally good objective then. She's trying to make sure it's just a good show for people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's a good performer.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Is she the biggest pop star in the world? She must be, right?
I don't know how to measure that.
I mean,
is there a social blade for pop stars?
I mean, there are charts.
Yeah.
I think
I
by
don't
a
know.
lot of like hard, if you're asking for statistics, Christine.
Yeah, where is the stats?
I think by a lot of stats she would be.
How do you measure it? By like number of tickets sold or how quickly they sell out kind of thing?
Yeah, like total gate, biggest selling tour of all time, things like that you could measure, or just like charts, music charting. How many weeks at number one? The only other person right now touring is Beyonce, who I think is even in the same conversation.
That's in Europe.
She's in
I
Europe, but I
think.
think she's coming. I think she has North American dates later, I would assume. But yeah, there's like, we're talking about a handful of people who have ever lived who are at like this level of fame, I want to say.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people just get totally, I don't know why I'm dwelling on this aspect of it. I just find it so, I can't imagine how you can go through that without it sort of breaking you in a weird way.
And I'm sure it does or has. And yeah, it's just always important for the average person in life to remember that when you're thinking about your idol or people that like they go through a lot of shit just trying to do what they want to do. And I don't think Taylor like ever decided I'm going to get 80 million people to follow me, you know? Like I don't think that's how it happens. I think
Yeah.
it just happened. And then now she has to deal with that. Not that she's not grateful, but that it's challenging. There's always going to be people criticizing or whatever her relationships or whatever it is.
She does get a lot of criticism.
I feel like I'm not really a Swiftie, but I am so cognizant of trying to be careful to not participate in the culture of like taking someone down or evaluating someone's relationship or whatever it is that like isn't what they put on display.
Yes.
So I'll just say that.
Okay. All right. No comment on
I'm
the
a
new boyfriend.
responsible
then.
observer is how I see it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that you can observe and enjoy and love what someone puts out for you, but then like respond responsibly, you know, when something comes to you or you see it in the news or someone's like, oh my God, retweet this. And you're like,
Yeah. It's a little unhealthy how. Yeah. Anyway. Let's focus on
Anyway.
the fun stuff. The Phoebe
Okay.
Bridgers collab. That was another highlight for me.
that was good.
Phoebe Bridgers is great.
Yeah,
If
I
she
wish there
ever-
was more of her, but I was very distracted while she was playing because the
'Cause the
people in
people
front of
just-
us kept talking about the VIP
Olivia
booth.
Benson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would gladly see a Phoebe Bridgers show. The next time she's touring on her own, I think she's touring with Boy Genius. She has a little group with
She did say that.
two friends of hers, right? So if they do Canadian dates, I would definitely go.
Yeah, I feel like I like her music vibe, and
Yeah.
her outfit was really cool. with all
She's the right
sequins.
level of depressing in music, I think.
I love depressing music.
Me too, but I feel like you have to strike a bit of a balance because I
Mm.
think if it's too sad and self-pitying,
It's like annoying.
it's just kind of feels
Yeah.
self-indulgent to me. So there's like, for me, that's like Mitski. No offense to Mitski fans, but like it's all like, oh my God, I hate myself. Like I don't want to listen to that.
I mean, we listened to that shit, you know.
There was a
15
point.
years
There was a
ago.
point in my life where I would have listened to stuff like that. These days, I'm looking for a bit. Like you know what's weird? I'm a pretty happy person. I kind of like where I am in life.
Really?
I like the life I have with you.
Okay.
We have our issues and things are stressful, but like I'm generally happy. But I still find myself
Wanting depressing music?
finding depressing music much more moving. And even like I find I like a lot of music that feels a little like regretful or that is singing about like something in the rearview mirror, a decision that you didn't make,
hindsight?
somehow your life went in a different direction. Some of my favorite Taylor Swift songs are like that. Some of the Evermore songs too, right? It's like going back to my like songs about your hometown
So it's more
or things of your
reflexive.
childhood, someone who used to mean a lot to you, whether that was a friend or a partner or a family member you don't have anymore. Like I find that hugely moving and affecting in a way that I find myself gravitating towards music like that as opposed to like the big pop songs. So I think that's why I just like,
Yeah.
which often just is like somewhat sad music or in a way, or at least like kind of nostalgic maybe.
Nostalgic is a good word, which kind of makes sense. I imagine that when you're 16, you don't really care or like it doesn't mean as much to you when there's like nostalgic songs about like long-term relationships because you're like you're not there yet. But when
Sure,
you're 27 or something, those songs like maybe really hit you differently. So yeah, it makes sense.
You know, it's one thing I like about the Evermore and Folklore albums, which I kind of consider sister albums, I guess, let's say, both pandemic albums. I felt like there's a bit of a maturity in her songwriting. How do I put this? A lot of her older records that I'm not a huge fan of, I think do really appeal to a very sort of young
22 audience
mindset of like relationships and stuff. Like, that boy was mean to me, we're not getting back together, almost like in a sort of like young adult fiction writing kind of way. What I thought was really interesting about her newer folky sort of albums is even though she has some songs like that, they feel kind of reflexive to me. Like there's an acknowledgement. Remember in the folklore section, she talks about, she introed like these are these songs I wrote about this fictional love triangle between three young people. Like it feels like there's something very reflexive or self-aware.
Like, was it really about her? Is that what she's
Exactly. No, it's more that like she acknowledges she's like writing songs about someone she isn't when she's doing that like young people love story thing. And then the songs that aren't about that, I think actually do have a lot more maturity and recognition that like relationships fall apart, not just because the boy was mean to me, but because maybe of my issues too. And things are way more complicated and messy, and there's
so
a lot of...
So it just makes sense.
Yeah, like I just...
grew up with different
Exactly,
writing.
but that's what that's another thing I think I really like about her albums and just how she's matured as a songwriter.
I thought when she said she was bringing out a special friend, a guy to sing with her, that she was going to bring out Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, right?
Oh, okay.
I was like, what? And then I would have screamed.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like, everyone's gonna get mad at me because they're gonna be like, Jack Antonoff is amazing, and I'm sure he is. But I thought she was talking about
Why
the Bon Iver
did you think
song.
that? Just
the way she said it, and it was like going into slow mo.
She said he was from New Jersey.
Okay, well, I didn't pick up on that part, but like the rest of it,
Eau Claire.
I was like, who? I guess I didn't realize that he had also been on her album in that way.
Have you ever seen Bon Iver live?
No, not live.
No. We should. Why don't we do that?
I know. Yeah.
Next time we want to go to a show, let's go see someone you really want to see.
Sure.
Would that be Bon Iver?
Yeah.
Is there anyone you want to see more? Like Dua Lipa?
Oh my God, that's you, man.
No, I'd rather see Bon Iver.
Anyways,
although he can't dance like this.
You're right. Yes. I thought that's what she was saying because I just didn't have the knowledge of like knowing that there was another guy with a guitar who would have come out. I was like, who else could it be? It's obviously Bon Iver. And then I was like, oh, oops. Like, I don't know enough.
All I really heard her say is like, this guy's from Jersey. And I'm just thinking like musical artists from New Jersey.
No, she started talking about how they were great friends and like he was
but she would just say that
amazing songwriter and stuff. And I was like, it's Bon Iver. They're going to sing Exile.
Yeah, but a lot of artists say like, oh, we're such good friends, and then just brings out someone they met. I know, yeah,
and you're right. It's my bad for thinking that. Like, but I had like 5 seconds where I was like, what? Like,
I thought Bruce Springsteen was gonna walk out or some shit like that. That would have been kind of amazing, though, right?
Yeah.
Or
cool for all the boomers.
Some other boomer.
All the dads who brought their daughters would have been like,
yeah, Thunder Road.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, that was Jack Antonoff when he came out. They did Getaway Car. It's another Reputation track, I'm pretty sure. People will...
He co-writes the songs with her, right?
They've done a lot of songwriting together, especially recently. She's done a lot of co-writing with the guy from The National. His name's escaping me right now. And did a little bit with Bon Iver on Folklore and Evermore as well. Which, you know what? Like, I actually don't like the duets they have on those albums, but I love the influence they very obviously had on those albums.
Yeah.
Especially The National guy. Like, I think he's a great songwriter and producer, but I just really, I don't know. I don't love his performance of songs.
With Taylor? Or
just in general. I'm not a big National fan.
Okay.
But that's okay.
I don't know as much about that one. Just Bon Iver.
It's almost got like a sort of spoken word thing. I guess that some people are into. It's almost like Leonard Cohen-ish. Suzanne eats the apples all the way from China.
If you got bad blood.
Yeah, something like that. She'll feed you tea and oranges.
Tea?
That come all the way from China. Suzanne.
Sweet Caroline?
You have no idea what I'm talking about.
Sweet Caroline.
So if Bon Iver's touring Europe right now, you would go to a Justin Vernon show.
I'm sure they've come to Ottawa. They'd come again.
I've seen him in Ottawa.
Yeah, so they'll
this was
come back.
many years ago. I don't think they're
They'll
coming back.
come back.
I don't think he's coming back. I think we might have to go to Wisconsin. We can get some cheese.
Okay.
Cheese and music.
Sounds good.
That's what life's all about.
They didn't have any cheese platters.
At the Taylor Swift.
No, they did not.
They didn't have any catering at all.
No, it was just a floor of screaming. Can we talk about the noise?
Oh, yeah.
Because you are an acoustic person. You have an appreciation for music and acoustics.
That's a nice
You
way
do.
of saying I'm a loud person.
No, I mean like you listen to music and
Yeah.
you took jazz classes and you whatever. Why don't you say why you are an acoustic person, whatever that means?
I don't know if I'm an acoustic person, but I have an opinion on the sound quality of
Yeah.
the show, which was not very good. But
Why?
that's what you expect. She's playing in a football stadium without a roof. Like, a lot of music is played in venues these days that were not designed for music, right? Whereas if you go to like an orchestra where a symphony sometimes plays,
Right, the shape of the room
those
is-
rooms
yeah.
are often designed in a way, the shape, the materials used is often a big part of it. Like what sort of happens at corners with reflections of noises. Like sound treatment is a
like the bass traps, bass
bass
traps.
trap. Yeah, we have fishing nets in the corner.
Shut up! I always do this. The bass traps we have in the corner of this room.
So we
to
have
help
a
with
very
sound.
unsophisticated version of that in here. Yeah, we have
But
bass
there's at least
traps in the
something.
corners. We have a big curtain
We have a
behind
ceiling.
you. We do have a ceiling. That's a bit of an issue. Well, you don't want to completely deaden a room either, right? Because that makes it also sound very strange. I saw a video of, I think U2. I don't know if they were building it or they're just for the first people to perform it, but they just built this venue in Las Vegas. That's like this dome that was created specifically to have good sound. And so they're
Awesome.
going to be playing there. So like something would sound 100 times better in that than it sounded in Taylor Swift with speakers blaring out into an open field.
Got it.
So yeah, like as much as it was a good time, and I'm sure they did the best they can, and they probably put like $100 million into figuring out this tour and how to make it sound good. There were definitely sections where it just felt like sound was sort of blaring at you, and you're not hearing much subtlety to the music, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did wear earphones.
Earplugs.
Earphones.
I was listening to other music while I was
No,
there.
that's not what I meant. Earplugs that are designed for going to a concert. Like it lets in some music, but it blocks out like reverb or the sounds of crowds at a like constant decibel. Like there's some
I think it takes
some
out
technology.
I think it takes out the super high frequencies, I want to say.
I thought they really worked because when I took them out once, like once I took them out, like I'd hear the crowd and it was like way too loud because it was just a lot of crowd up and behind us and all around us.
So I found the same thing. I put them in after a couple songs, not because she was too loud,
it was the crowd.
but at the peak screaming moments, you feel this weird thing happening in your ears where it's like there's almost like like something like shaking. Like your body realizes like I'm not supposed to be experiencing
like you
something
feel
this
sick.
loud. Yeah, there's something, I don't know, maybe people get off on that feeling because it's sort of like a sort of peak experience, but that was the moment I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to actually damage my hearing over this. So yeah, we had, they're called loops. I'd never used them before. I'm not sure if this is like a real review or anything, but I thought they did a good job. We bought the ones that are specifically made for like, hey, I still want to hear the concert. I just want to take out like I just want to dampen it down a little bit from a decibel perspective and take out like the high frequencies, I think is what it does.
I saw a few people around wearing earplugs,
Well,
but
all the security.
well, yeah, that's
all
who I
the
meant, I
event
guess.
staff.
But they had like construction level earplugs, and you can tell like the big ones.
Yeah,
and
they don't want to
they're
hear
just-
anything.
They're like, I don't want to hear any
Ears
shit.
are just stuffed with orange foam.
But yeah, it can be very damaging to your ears. And one thing I remember back from being a kid when I went to concerts, even like smaller ones, was my ears would ring for days. And I think it's what triggered some migraines for me. And I am someone who get migraines. So wearing those earplugs, I think honestly helped because I didn't have that at all after. And there was no way, like no one didn't have ringing ears if they weren't wearing earplugs and they were like right in the middle.
Oh no,
there.
I was
It's, like,
super
crazy.
glad we did that. Still enjoyed the show. And you're right, like I wasn't hearing ringing in my ears. we'd be hearing ringing in our ears now.
Yeah.
If that
This is what you got to do when you're a boomer. You know, you need the earplugs. You got to take care of your ears out there, people.
Well, I just wonder how many people are going to be like deaf when they're like 70 because they went to too many Taylor Swift concerts.
I'm sure there'll be better hearing aids, you know, by the time 20-year-olds are 70. Yeah. Or like surgeries to fix it or open your ear canal or whatever. I don't know.
But like I especially needed to do it because of the ear cleaning.
Oh, that's right.
My super
that you
hearing.
explained on the last podcast.
I know.
Why did you do that? You could have just left the wax in and it would have acted like a filter.
I had natural earplugs.
Oh my God.
That's funny. My ears still feel clean though.
That's
I
great.
bought a kit at home, so now I can do it. I can do it all the time. Do you want me to do it for you?
No, my ears
like
are
I could do
fine.
your ears. Are
No,
you sure?
They're good.
You want me to take a look in there?
No, do not.
Can I look?
No. Anyways, I got merch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we went to the merch store after the concert.
It was way too busy before.
Yeah, like it looked like you wouldn't have seen the concert if you stood
We
in that line.
realized we weren't going to get out of there before a lot of people, so we stuck around, took a few pictures, and went to the merch booth after.
Just had a very small Simply and Illogical meetup after everyone's gone.
Well, man, like the show, okay, the show was 3.5 hours. She started at 8, right? So it's like 11:30ish when she ends with Karma. And yeah, there's just 70,000 people trying to leave a parking lot at the same time.
Crazy.
So it's like, let's just, we were one of probably the last people out because we just sort of let the big rush get out of there.
Not the last people, but like
our lot was pretty empty.
The parking lot was pretty empty when we finally got there. It wasn't until after midnight.
Yeah, we got home like what, 1:30? The hotel, I mean.
Yeah, kind of a lot. Can I talk about the sets, which I thought was so fun? That,
we're back to concert
exactly
review?
5 people will care about. But
People
I
care
think
about-
it was so cool that there was little sections of the stage that moved up and down. And I know this is nothing new, but like it's not new. I just I really enjoyed watching the mechanics of it. And not only did they like have robots basically planning at what time this particular part of the stage would raise and this one would lower. Or like, you know, they programmed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they programmed it in some software to
Sorry,
like
I'm
do
just
that.
picturing a robot beneath the stage.
You know what I mean? Like there's mechanical things activated by software, whatever you want to call that.
Seems kind of
sentient.
dangerous.
No, yeah, it does, right?
Yeah.
That's why like there's got to be like safety supervisors and all this shit on this stuff. But
At one point, it lifted a platform for like her and her guitarists. And I noticed they gave her like a super wide one. The guitarist like a bit of a skinnier tower.
oh no.
It's like, oh yeah, they really don't want her to fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the combination of that with stage pieces and props also coming out on stage paired with projection or playing through the screen. I don't know if it was a projector or not, if it was actually just like LED through the screen. But like you have to coordinate the movement of physical objects on the stage with the animations or videography playing on the screen so that they actually integrate really cool. Because like if the stage raised up, all of a sudden there's like a bunch of candles on the screen that is the stage that just moved up out of the main stage.
You're right.
That and the background. And every time she came out of the big background, they would like open like a little door for her.
Yeah.
There would still be things around her and behind her and beyond her that was like reflecting properly whatever they wanted. They programmed it to show. And I just thought so much of that was so meticulous that like, you know, there's like 87 people working on literally just that.
When I
More
said
than that.
when I said 100, I'm pretty sure like it's probably $100 million they spent on this tour.
Yeah.
That would not surprise me at all. Now I'm sure if they're selling out 70,000 tickets a night for weeks, they'll make their money. But like, yeah, you're right. This was an incredibly elaborate, expensive, complicated production.
And they were not cheap tickets, and I don't just mean like being on the floor, but like I'll keep seeing TikToks of people saying they paid like $500 for like this seat, and they show their seat, and it's
They're
like
at the very
really
back.
bad. Like
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of criticism about that. But I don't know if that's just about her as much as it is like Ticketmaster or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into the whole
Yeah,
Ticketmaster thing. I think we talked about it before. But yeah, it is kind of sad to know, like, we probably spent, like, I think those tickets were like $800 or something that we had. Something like that. And I'm sure people were reselling tickets like that for, like, 5 to 10 times that much. It's kind of, I hate that.
That's always going to happen. So you can't really control
No, there's
that.
some way, well, it's not into a whole like ticketing scalping debate. I think there are some ways you could prevent that, but I think it's
like if you tie it to their identity and like you can't resell them, but then people will get upset. What if they like legitimately can't go?
yeah, but there's ways of just preventing. They're not allowed to sell it for more than X over the ticket value. Like there's
You can
things.
sell it wherever you want on whatever
Yeah,
marketplace.
you could sell
How
it
do you
on a
control
street
it?
corner if you want to. But I'm saying right now the biggest issue is that Ticketmaster and StubHub are owned by the same company.
Right.
There's a monopoly. Yada,
Okay,
yada,
yeah,
yada.
yeah. I didn't mean to open that box. But
Okay.
like, yes. I do think people just generally, the spirit of like what I'll see in reviews is like people were just annoyed that it was overwhelmingly so expensive.
But I was when I was looking around in hockey. I'm going to give you an analogy here. In some cities like Toronto, it's really expensive to go see hockey games. So often, like you're watching a game on TV and the seats are just full of guys in suits who don't even look like they care about what's happening. It's just like, this is the business thing to do, somewhere important to be that, this was like this, it's a status thing almost.
In like the booths? Or
But
just in
not
the
even the
front
booth, just in
seats?
like the lower bowl, the better seats lower in the stadium.
And you saw this at Taylor Swift?
No,
Is that what
I'm
you're about
saying
to say?
this is what you see at some like sporting events sometimes. For Taylor Swift, even though those tickets were hugely expensive, especially for resale, I wasn't seeing people there who were just like, oh, this is like the rich thing to see right now. You know what I mean? The people there who clearly were obviously
Because
fans.
in hockey, I feel like I'm totally making this up, but this is just what
Then you
my
better
mind
say it.
thinks. I'm totally making this up. I feel like in hockey, in the same way that like rich business people take people to like golf, it's
Yes.
just like something that men in suits do. And
Sure.
It's like, come to the hockey game with me and we'll discuss that deal. Ha ha ha.
You wouldn't
Like,
do that at the
why
Taylor
would you
Swift
ever
show?
do that? You can't hear anyone. Like, you can't talk. It just doesn't make any sense.
I'm trying to close an acquisition
No.
between like an oil
that's
company
just,
and
no.
a...
Like those
take you to the Taylor
types of
Swift show.
people are not interested in going to a Taylor Swift and if they were using it as a bargaining chip in some kind of deal, they would give the tickets to their colleagues' daughters. Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, sure. I think, yeah, you do point out, actually, that's a good observation. But I guess I'm just saying, as much as like I hate the whole sort of debacle around getting the tickets, and a lot of people couldn't get tickets, at least the people there, from what we could see, were overwhelmingly like
People who wanted
bigger
to be
fans
there.
than us. We were probably the biggest posers there.
What do you mean?
We were 99% of the people there knew like the words to every
single song. Yeah.
Like she would give like one hint about what the next song was, and everyone knows. Like they
Yeah.
know the 1, 2, 3, let's go, bitch. all those little inside jokes and things.
But this was the floor too. So like you would expect that the people gunning for the floor when ordering tickets that are the most expensive are going to be those like diehard fans who want to be
Yeah, but
closest
sometimes
to her.
diehard fans, I guess my point about the hockey thing is sometimes diehard fans are priced out of better seats. And then the better seats end up with people
Oh,
who
I
just
hear
have
you.
money, not necessarily good fans. And what I'm saying is that wasn't the case here. Yes.
Except we weren't
Except
as
us.
I'm
projecting.
basically that sounds like what you're doing there. No, we had a good time and it was
Yeah.
great to go with some of the team and
I
they
think
are
they had a good time.
true Swifties. So yeah, I think it was good. I have a question since you know more about her. I found it interesting in the beginning of the concert how she was explaining that a lot of her albums she hadn't played before on tour because it had been like 3 years of COVID, right? So she
Oh,
was like,
yes.
instead of going on tour and what she loves to do, or that's what she said, she just made a bunch of albums.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that she's back on tour, she has so much to sing.
Yes.
And she called this the Eras Tour because it's basically an era of this album, then this album, then this album. And that's like the theme. That's what's all over her merch. That's
Yes.
just the way she's packaging it.
Including albums from like before pandemic.
Right. Yeah, like Taylor's version too. Like when she made her version of her old music.
She's
Yeah.
re-recording her old catalog so she can own the masters.
But she thematized this tour basically being about the fact that she has so many albums, and she called it the Eras Tour.
Yes.
To be like, this is a tour of all the eras we've done. What's gonna be her next album? Because this is like a bookend almost, is what it sounds like thematically. It's like, what's the next one gonna be, like called Rebirth or something? Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Reboot.
That is an interesting question, because I think a lot of people saw Midnight's, her most recent album, as sort of, if Folklore and Evermore were sort of like her really doing a different thing from like a songwriting perspective, going a little more folky, acoustic, rather than the big pop ballads. I think a lot of people see Midnight's as sort of a synthesis of everything. Like it's got the better, maybe more elevated songwriting, but it also pulls elements from the more poppy synth elements of her older music as well. So it's easy to see Midnight's as sort of a culmination of a lot of what has come before. So it wouldn't shock me if she just did another album that sounded pretty similar to her most recent one.
But then what's she gonna call that tour? That's what I'm saying. She did the Eras Tour, which is like, look at all of my types of music. And now it's like, what's the next tour called? It has to be like the Rebirth Tour.
Yeah, maybe she just goes in a completely different artistic direction. I don't, no one knows the answer to this, right? And I think it's just, she's probably just thinking about what's in front of her face right now, right? She hasn't toured in a long time. You're right. Like, it's like, you'd expect a band that's in like the twilight of their career to do a tour that's like, here's a retrospective of all our music.
Right. And my point is,
it's different for someone to do it when they're still, she's our age, right? She's what, 30, 34?
Like
I don't know.
Just
born 1989.
It made me think about this because, like, when I think of like our anniversary collections with Holo Taco,
let's make this about us.
No, but like I find it interesting how she packaged the tour.
Yeah.
Because it's like, here's a list of everything we've done.
Do you want to do an eras collection?
Well, the remix collection, which we did a few years back, was kind of like, here's all of our formulas mixed together in a summary of the types of formulas, but now just mix them together. So it just makes me think of like strategies of how to do like the next thing when you've done here's all of our mixes of whatever. It just made me find that interesting and a parallel, and it made me think about what is she gonna label or thematize her next tour around after she comes out with X many albums.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see it being very much like she's arrived at a place where I could see her sort of existing for a while now with her most recent sound. But it wouldn't shock me if like the next record was like very country music, just because she felt like sort of playing in that sandbox.
Like return to roots.
And she has totally the liberty of, she has a fan base that will allow her to be experimental at this point. I think that's pretty obvious. So I think people will just want her to do what she finds gratifying as an artist in like a selfish sort of way.
Yeah. So maybe we'll hear some wild things that we've never heard before. Maybe she'll do opera. Which is just like, I just want to do an opera
hopefully
album.
not.
Why not?
That'd be pretty weird. She's not I shouldn't say this. She's a great songwriter. You know what's amazing about her? Like, I don't think it's like she's the most gifted guitarist. And like there's other pop stars that are, I think, clearly better singers than her. So like with her, it's like sort of the whole package. I think the songwriting is the best thing going for her, which explains her popularity.
I think she does a lot of storytelling. This is a little bit more of an outsider view. From what I observe in media and how people talk about her, she tells a lot of stories through, and not only in her songs, but around her songs, so that people get pulled in.
You're right. People really embrace what sort of exists outside the text. But I think even if you get rid of all that noise, she is just an excellent songwriter. And I think at the end of the day, that's, especially for pop music, that matters more about like, you don't need to have the vocal chops of Ariana Grande or, you know, be able to play the guitar like, I don't know, someone else.
Someone from Radiohead.
Right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's their songwriting. So I don't know where she's going. Just as long as the songwriting is still what is sort of leading her artistic direction, I think she's in a good spot.
Cool. Yeah. I'm interested to see what she does next, but I feel like she has time.
So
she
we're
has to
gonna
do
see Bon Iver on tour though.
If they're coming to Canada.
What if they're coming to New Jersey?
In the MetLife? Do they do concerts that big?
No.
Or no?
What if they go to Martha's Vineyard in the fall?
What's Martha's Vineyard?
Martha Stewart opens up her backyard for concerts.
She does?
No.
I
I used to think that's what Martha's Vineyard was.
Is it like a wine shop?
It's a place in Rhode Island where a lot of rich people live.
Oh.
But I used to think it was like, oh, it's Martha Stewart's little village compound.
Why is it called Martha's Vineyard?
I don't know. It's confusing.
Is it in, where is it? And it's not near Niagara, is it? Because like
Niagara?
Niagara is where they have all like the wineries and the vineyards.
Oh, no.
You do like tours in there.
It's like your Boston, the coast near Boston, I think.
Just ignore this segment. Like, what are these Canadians saying? I don't know.
So you want to see Bon Iver in Martha Stewart's backyard?
I don't know what you're saying, and I don't believe anything
What did you
you're
not
saying.
understand about that
That's
sentence?
probably not real. Like,
But would you want to do it if he was?
if Martha invited me.
Martha Stewart's calling you up. Hey, Bon
Yeah.
Iver's playing in the backyard,
Okay.
22 a million. You want to
What?
come? I also got some.
How many people?
I also have some stock tips for you.
Stop.
I got some insider
up,
information.
Okay. Well,
Snoop Dogg's gonna be there.
I want to know who else went to the Taylor Swift concert. So if you guys want to share your own stories, comment down below. Or if otherwise you're just a huge Swiftie and you have things to say
Do you have
about
things to say?
about our our experience, your experience, whatever it is. I want to hear it.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Hope you had a fantastic Taco Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see y'all later. Bye.